Hello and welcome to Let's See What's Out There presents, Home Media Minefield presents Let's See What's Out There live, and I'm getting it wrong already. A entertainment live stream and podcast focused on film, television and related media. My name's Keith Isles. I'm an independent filmmaker, content creator and lifelong fan of film and television. And for today's episode, we are going to have a discussion around the Frightfest Halloween 2021 event, which happened this past weekend. Obviously, we are slightly late for Halloween itself, but hey, only a day late, so not so bad there. We're going to talk about the event. We're going to talk about a lot of the films that screen this year, although they are going to be spoiler-free because a lot of this content was premieres that will either end up at the cinemas, on home media, or on some sort of streaming or video on demand. So we don't want to ruin it for you. We just want to tell you a little bit about those films and give our personal thoughts as to whether we recommend them or not. If you're new to the channel here, then welcome. This is also going as a live stream tonight. So if you do have any comments that you want to put those in the stream, and I will get to them and mention you on air and talk about anything that you want to discuss about those films or any questions you've got. Alternatively, if you're finding us later as a video on YouTube, then please do consider subscribing to the channel and checking out some of the other work. We do live streams, podcasts, and reviews of physical media releases of films and TV shows. So with that out of the way, I'm really pleased. I'm joined today with a panel of Frightfesters who are all there this weekend. First up, filmmaker and horror aficionado, Clive Ashenden. Welcome, Clive.
Hello.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, thanks, Keith.
It's been a while,
it's been a while, but I always enjoy Halloween. Don't need much of an excuse to watch horror movies, to be fair, but it's always a fun time of year, isn't it?
Exactly. It's one of the best times of year, I think. Enjoy watching those movies. It's been a while. I can tell we're live because, as I said, I messed up my intro. So I want to take two. I want to go back and do it again. But that's the beauty of liveness. So there you go. Of living. Indeed. And you are wearing your Frightfest t-shirt, are you?
I'm wearing a Frightfest t-shirt.
A Frightfest t-shirt.
Past version.
Well done.
Yeah.
I've just got a little Frightfest Presents pin badge, which you probably can't see there, and a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin pin badge. Very subtle. There you go.
I could see your festival pass behind you as well.
There you go. Yeah, was at the main Frightfest event. We did do a episode on that, which is in the stream. So please go and check that out. As once you've watched this, obviously, go back and check out what was going on for the main Frightfest 2021 event, where again we give an overview of the films that were seen on that. Also joining us is regular Frightfester and horror fan Andy Lunn. Welcome, Andy.
Hello, how are you?
How are you today?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad.
Are you recovered from the weekend?
Yeah, I think so. Ready for some more horror films.
Love it, and I love to see you're wearing a horror-related hoodie there with the Overlook Hotel. Very cool.
Indeed. Yes. Yeah, a little bit cold for the Frightfest t-shirt here. Must have the heating way up there, Clive.
Well, maybe. Well,
on
all work and no play makes Andy a dull boy. Is that what you're going?
Oh, there you go. There you go. Nice reference. Reference. Okay, and then also we have a special guest for this particular podcast. Joining us is film producer Natasha Marberger. Natasha, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. What shall I say? Anything?
Well, I hope you say something, because otherwise, it'll be a very dull podcast. But no, it's lovely to have you on. I mean, obviously, you and I have known each other for some years, and we've worked together previously. But for the benefit of the audience, anyone watching out there, can you just sort of tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what your relationship with the horror genre is.
Yeah, so as you said, I'm a producer. I do different things, features, short films, corporate stuff, music videos, anything that comes my way. And we've worked together a couple of times in the past. At the moment, I'm working with Kathy Tyson on a short project. I'm not going to reveal too much about that yet, but working with her is absolutely fantastic. And I also run the London Independent Film Festival, which is in April, and that's been going for, I think, 19 years now. And I've just also set up its sister festival, which is the Los Angeles International Film Festival. And that is happening in, oh gosh, about 2 weeks' time now, 16th to the 21st of November. And obviously this year it's virtual because a lot of things are still virtual, but we hopefully will be able to launch next year properly.
Fantastic.
In terms of Frightfest, I've obviously attended many events in the past, different. I go to so many festivals and so many film events, and I've been to see many films previously. One that really stands out to me is Tigers Are Not Afraid, which was by Issa Lopez a few years ago. You remember that?
I remember that one. Yes, that was very good.
Yeah, great, that one. I've never attended as many events as this year. I've attended quite a few in the summer, in the August event, that's the main event, and then obviously this past event as well.
Great. No, I mean, it really is. It's that time of the year, isn't it, with film festivals and everything, because it's voting season for BAFTA and everything at the moment. So there's lots of screenings with that. We've just had the London Film Festival. I think Rain Dance is going on at the moment as well, and of course, you know, Frightfest, which is always fun. And I'm loving the fact that they do Halloween events now as well as the main event over the August bank holiday. So that's fantastic. And of course, we've got Glasgow to look forward to in the new year again, haven't we? So
yeah, I'm looking forward to Glasgow. I've never been to that one, so that's
right. Now it's a lot of fun. I've been to several of the Glasgow ones, and it's because it's only the one screen, you know, a bit like this one was actually. You know, everybody's in the cinema together and sharing that experience. And I do think there is something about watching stuff on the big screen with an audience. You know, great as virtual is, it's not quite the same, is it?
No, it's great to be there in the Empire in Leicester Square. It's massive, which is great. And it's just not the same as watching things at home. And I mean, the sound is fantastic as well in there. And it's also just so nice after the year and a half that we've had. It's so nice to all be together in one space watching stuff. And I think what Frightfest does really well is it's such a community vibe. So the amount of people, obviously it was less this year than in previous years. August is the main event. It's normally twice as big as what it was this year. But just the community atmosphere going on and people hanging out and everyone kind of seeing each other again after such a long time. It was really special, I think.
No, I agree. I really enjoy it. As I said, I've been doing it for some years now. Clive and Andy even more than me, I think. But, you know, I have to say, you know, Alan, Paul, Greg and Ian do a fantastic job along with their massive team that they've got as well. And if we've got anyone watching this video or new that's not aware of Frightfest, then I encourage you to go to frightfest.co.uk and check this out, because if you love horror films, if you love that genre, it really is the event to go to and be part of. And as you've rightly said, Natasha, it's very much a community. You know, well, Andy, I know you through Frightfest, and I've met many other good friends through that as well. So, and I thank Clive for originally recommending it to me years ago. So yeah,
right. I indoctrinated you into the wicked ways of Frightfest.
There you go. You did, and I haven't looked back. I think one of the things that's nice about Frightfest as well is often you get the opportunity to see movies that you might not necessarily see otherwise, because not all of these movies get a massive wide release. Some of them get a limited release at the cinema, some of them go to home media, some of them are available on specific streaming sites, etc. But it does give the opportunity to see that, and it shows all the types of different horror films from all around the world. So it really is, it's a big genre, and it really is global as well. So yeah, please check out that's my little plug for Frightfest out of the way. Sorry,
I just wanted to add as well, I think there's so many different types of things. Even if you're not a fan of everything, you will find a whole load of stuff that you will like. So there's such a range of things. Frightfest isn't just, it's so many, there's sci-fi stuff, then there's kind of blood and guts. If that's your kind of thing, then that's great. But then there's also a lot of much more subtle kind of intense horror stuff. So there's such a range, and I think there's something there for everyone. So people should definitely check it out.
Yeah, no, agreed. I mean, that is the thing with horror. Horror is such a wide-spanning genre, and I always think of horror as a cross-genre, medium. Really, it's kind of you can mix as you rightly said, sci-fi or comedy or psychological thrillers or whatever. They all sort of fit into that area. And some are more disturbing than others, which I'm sure we'll get into today.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I think. One other thing to just add, Keith, before we get into it is that I think one of the things that really marks Frightfest out, or has done for me, is that it always focuses on the new, on what's new in horror. Is because I've been to quite a few, I've been to sort of horror festivals, horror screenings, and in a lot of festivals, there's a kind of reliance on kind of, showing the classics, showing old stuff again, which I love, and I'll go to all those screenings. Don't get me wrong, but with Frightfest, they're always seeking out new and exciting genre films from all over the world. So it's like even with this Halloween event, there were a number of UK premieres. There was a world premiere, I believe, and it's you can go there and you can see these films before you've even read about them. That's what's great and exciting as a horror fan, is you get to experience it. And then even with some of the titles where you're thinking, oh, well, that might well come to streaming, that's not the same as seeing it on the big screen.
Great.
And horror is is one of these genres where it really demands seeing it in a crowd of people, because that's kind of, it just adds to it so much. When everyone jumps at the same time, it's sort of it's like comedy in that way, in that you can sit there and watch a comedy at home on your own and have a little chuckle, but if you're in a room of people and everyone's laughing, then it really just lifts it. And it's the same with horror. If you're watching like a really good kill moment, or like a really good moment of suspense, and afterwards you can just feel the whole room kind of like, it's great. Or just bursting into applause, as we will do if there's a particularly like nasty bit of gore. Obviously,
if there's a really deserved nasty death, everyone applauds.
And I think the one venue thing helps as well. That's definitely a plus point. Other festivals. I remember one where I had to rush from Curzon Mayfair all the way to Hackney to see the next film. You haven't got that kind of fear that you're going to miss the next film from that. It's great all being in that one place.
Absolutely, no, it is, and it's also really great that it leans heavily as well towards the independent film market. So, rather than just the ones that have got distributors and studios behind them. I mean, we get those as well, but you also get some that were made on a micro budget, you know, the sort of things that you know, I know Clive and probably you too, Natasha, know exactly what I'm talking about, right?
Yes,
made on a micro budget with no time, you know, at all. And you know, Frightfest gives those type of things a chance as well to have to be seen with an audience, whether it's successful or not, it doesn't matter. It gets the chance for an audience experience, and that's really important. So, yeah, cool. One last question, Natasha. Have you before we sort of get into this year's program, but have you always been a fan of the horror genre? As you said, it as you've identified, it's quite a wide ranging genre. But is it something you've always sort of been into, or is it something you've discovered more recently?
Yeah, I've always been into some horror. I'm not into everything. For me, it really has to hang together story-wise. So sometimes I'm much more into kind of psychological things, so psychological thrillers. But it really, for me, it really varies. It's not to say, oh, I'm not going to like it because there's horror. If I like it, I like it. It can be a whole range of different things, but it really, the story has to be really thought out and really believable in that sense. You know, we're within its own world. It has to make sense to me. I think that's one thing that I guess it's kind of a through line, and it loses my attention if it gets too kind of complicated or you know, story is messy or it doesn't make any sense or something like that. But in that way, I like all sorts of things. Comedy, horrors, there are great ones that I really like. Then obviously I was saying psychological thrillers, then there's a whole range of things. And this year at the October, the Halloween Frightfest event, there was a range of stuff in there as well.
Yes, absolutely. Which actually brings me really nicely into, if I can make sure I do this correctly here and get the correct window up so people can, there you go. So, yeah, so we had over the one evening and whole day, we had 9 films there that we've got up. Now, I appreciate, I don't know whether, did anybody see all of them? I know I did, but did anybody else actually see everything, or did you miss a couple maybe?
I saw, I think, 4. I'm not sure. I can't. But yeah, I definitely didn't see them all.
Okay, fair enough. What about you, Clive? Did you miss anything this
I
year?
missed a couple. I had to miss the first film because of work, and then I wasn't able to get to the early screening on the Saturday because of other commitments. So,
right,
yeah, but 7 out of 9.
Oh, that's
so
not
there
too
we go.
bad. 7 of 9. Okay. And Andy?
Yeah, I always missed the last 2 because I went to get the train.
Oh, to get home.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair
So
enough.
that's 7 as well.
Lots of people are in that position. So so that's absolutely fine. Well, let's as I said, we're not going to go into sort of heavy spoilers or anything like that. We're just going to give a brief overview and our thoughts, and maybe a little bit about who's involved in the productions, and then sort of move on. But it all kicked off on the Friday night with The Seed, which is sort of a girls' weekend away in the Mojave Desert that becomes sort of a tale of alien invasion. I think that sort of briefly sums it up without actually doing any spoilers here. But what did you guys? Well, is it only you, Andy, that saw this one apart from me?
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah.
What did you think?
Yeah, I was thinking actually yesterday about it. It's weird with Frightfest that sort of at the time when you see it is maybe different to what you think when you've had the whole weekend. And this one particularly had that for me. Well, I really quite enjoyed it whilst watching it, but sort of in comparison with the whole weekend and with everything else, it was kind of, I really enjoyed it because it was because of it being first, I think it was a really good opener, and it was a nice creature feature, which I like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, definitely the opening film. It's always a tough one because it has a bit of a bar to set, doesn't it? And I'm sure that the organisers of Fright Fest agonize over this sort of thing, as to, what are we going to put on first, and what are we going to open the festival with? But yeah, I thought, did you see this one, Natasha, or was this one you didn't?
No, I didn't see all of it, but I saw the end and the Q&A with the filmmakers. So
yeah,
it looked like I didn't see all of it, like I said, but it looked like a really fun way to start the festival.
Yeah. No, it was definitely a bit of fun in terms of the type of horror movie it was. I mean, you had some sort of, there's some definite Cronenberg-esque sort of body horror stuff going on in this one. You have 3 very attractive young leads who all were actually guests. That was the other good thing with Fright Fest, is they're often able to get the director and some of the actors over as guests to do a bit of a Q&A during it. So we had
Lucy as well.
Say that again, sorry?
I saw the Q&A as well. Thought it was really excellent.
Yeah, that was quite informative on how it was really quite a hellish shoot, and it kind of, then again, thinking back on the film, that kind of came through. I think, that you could see the blood, sweat, and tears in it.
literally,
in a good way. In a good way, though. I think,
No, absolutely.
They were afraid to do what they wanted to do with it,
Yeah. Directed by Sam Walker, and they had Lucy, Sophie, and Chelsea over as guests as well. But yeah, I mean, it really is the sort of, again, when you sort of look at low budget filmmaking or medium budget or whatever. I mean, this is the script here was very smartly written, in so much as it was really only the 3 characters. Okay, there is a 4th that appears at some point, but these 3 people in one location. Again, a gorgeous location, because it was a lovely villa apartment or whatever in the middle of a beautiful desert. It really did look lush and have production values like that. But as I said, writing something that doesn't involve hundreds of locations and a massive ensemble of characters is, of course, a good way to keep control when you're making films on a moderate budget, which from what they were saying, this was. But yeah, they did some fun things. There's certainly some real gross out moments in this as well.
It does go a bit bonkers, but halfway through, but that was good as well. It was also kind of welcome bonkersness. It wasn't.
Yeah. Are you going to try and check this out?
Far, but...
Exactly. You're going to try and check this out, Clive?
Well, it sounds like it's got a ringing endorsement from you guys. So yeah, it's definitely put on my list.
Cool. All right. Well, next up we had Barbarians, which I have to say I really enjoyed this one. I did. You guys all see this one?
Yeah.
I was quite pulled in by this. I thought good story, strong performances, and it kind of again, I don't want to spoil anything here, but it's one of those films that sort of starts off as one thing and then becomes something else. And I always like it when they can pull that off,
I think it's very difficult to talk about this one without giving too much away, really.
It is.
So it's a completely, I think it really, because you think it's one thing and you're really invested in that, and then it turns completely, and it's brilliant. It's amazing. The acting as well, I think, is excellent.
Yeah, no, agreed. Really good performances. And, I was actually quite surprised and I'm not going to lie, inspired that director Charles Dorfman on this. This was actually his first feature. This is his first time directing, and he also wrote it as well. And the script is solid. The direction was solid. And like you said, the performances were fantastic here. And again, they leaned into the using a smallish cast within a set location again. So there was something, a little bit of a theme here on the first night with these first two. But obviously, but very different in the type of horror that it was. And of course, we had some pretty messed up relationships going on as well, which I always enjoy. That's Clive. What about you? This would have been your first film of this event. What were your feelings?
Yeah, I thought it was a strong effort. I really like the sort of central quartet, and I thought that they draw that the drama there well, and the director uses a lot of long takes, and so it gets quite like intense and intimate, and then it takes a turn.
Yes.
So yeah, there I had a few quibbles with a few things, but which I can't really get into without getting into spoilers. But generally, I thought it really, it really worked, and you could see what they were going for, and it sort of it came together.
Yeah. Again, contained and very much edge of your seat, I think. Anybody got anything else to add?
What I think this was the point. One of the characters I didn't particularly like, but I think that may have been the point that you weren't supposed to like.
Yes. Yeah.
So that kind of they were annoying me sort of a little bit, but then once it turned, as we're calling it, I was there. I was in.
Yeah. I mean, it's very much an sort of exploration of kind of this, of like toxic maleness, I guess. There's a bit of that, right? There's a bit of like the guy who's the uber alpha, and then the guy who feels threatened by that, and and that there are, which and the sort of, that's, I guess, the central conflict, although there are other conflicts, to do with the interrelationships and so on. And then, and then there's things happening outside as well. But
yeah, there were quite a few things as well that were sort of, again, first time filmmaker, but sort of borrowing from the best, as it were. There was a few Kubrick-esque type references as well in there, wasn't there? So yeah, worth seeing. Hopefully this was such a early release that I don't think they even, as you can see, it's got the Frightfest poster there, because I don't think there's actually a poster for the film yet. It was that exclusive and early as a UK premiere, but we wish them well, and hopefully you can check that out somewhere. Splendid. Okay, and then the final film of the first night, the late night film, was The Possessed, which is an Australian horror. I know you didn't see this one, Andy, but Natasha, did you see this one?
No, I haven't seen this one.
Okay, so it's down to you and me then, Clive.
Yes, now, it is.
This stars John Jarratt, who is quite well known to horror fans, because of course he's the main sort of antagonist in the Wolf Creek genre, which is obviously not just movies now, but there's been a couple of TV shows as well. So he's quite involved in the horror genre, being that. But this is quite a different role for him, to say the least, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is an odd film. It's very much I would say, slightly schizophrenic, in that there's like, it's like half the film is based on a true story about a Australian exorcist, kind of amateur exorcist, who after a car accident finds that he has, quote unquote, these powers, and so. And in the, I don't think it's really a spoiler to say that in the end credits, we actually see some footage of him at work.
Yes.
So on you have this kind of on the one hand, it presents this sort of like these scenes of exorcism, which kind of take the Catholic Church out of it, which take the kind of more the trappings we're used to seeing in the exorcism movie. So it doesn't have that, which I found refreshing. On the other hand, it marries this with this kind of like very splattery, very rubber monsters kind of aesthetic of like when we actually see the demons manifest. And I won't get into this the actual sort of twos and fro's of the plot, but it's a bit of its heart was in the right place.
Yeah.
And I think John Jarratt is a good actor, but for me it was a film where like the dialogue, there was no subtext. It was quite soap opera. Everyone said exactly what they thought the whole time. I was never not entertained, but at the same time it got quite ludicrous.
Mm-hmm.
That was my
yeah. No, well, absolutely. I think I know there were a lot of people that didn't enjoy this and were quite vocal about it. And a term you just used, I think I said exactly that about its heart being in the right place. And it wasn't that it was badly made. It was actually well made. And Chris Sun, the director, did he did an introduction, a recorded introduction. Obviously, he wasn't able to come all the way over for the premiere here, but he's done previous films like Boar, which was a bit of a hit at Frightfest a few years back. And I agree. I think it's actually an interesting story, and it's not badly made. But there was something about it that didn't quite. I can see why people weren't satisfied with it, and I think you've kind of nailed it there by saying it was a little bit. It did feel like it sort of lacked subtext somewhat, and I know a few people were like. I mean, we're used to seeing John Jarratt play this mean guy all of the time in a lot of the films, and this was quite a different character for him. A much more empathetic, likable individual. But I know the audience were laughing when they actually shouldn't be in a few places. So, but it's nothing is always for everyone, right? And I saw good things in this, despite what some people said. So I would say check it out and decide for yourself. It's. Do you think that's fair?
I think that's fair. I mean, it's quite. Just know that the tone is quite broad, and so it's not. If you want a serious like exorcism type movie, this isn't it. But if you're looking for something which is a very different take on it, and you like your practical effects monsters and a bit of gore, then you'll find that in there as well.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think it's very fair to say that the production values on this weren't bad at all. It was actually quite well made. But some people have a little bit of problem with the performances, and I kind of see where they're coming from. So, all right. Well, that was the first evening, and then the next day, we started off with this excellent documentary, Pennywise, which is the story of Stephen King's It. Not the films of recent, but the original television miniseries that was that late 80s or early 90s?
I think it's 90.
Was it 1990? Yeah.
I think so.
And very, very comprehensive documentary. It's about 2 hours long. I've heard a few people say it was a bit long, but it was, bearing in mind that you're talking about 8 characters, the 8 main characters, and they got most of the actors who played both the child version and the adult versions of those characters. So that's quite a lot of interviews, plus Tim Curry himself. giving a decent interview of this. So they delved quite deeply into all the aspects of it, right from the sort of genesis from Stephen King as to how he came up with the idea and whatever. So as far as behind the scenes, making of retrospective documentaries go, I think that they did really well with this. But that's just my thoughts. What did you guys think?
Yeah, I like a good documentary at Frightfest. I like a bit of a change up from just standard fiction films all the time. And this one was good. I've not seen the series, for years, so I didn't know a lot about it either, or couldn't remember a lot about it. So that was good, because you weren't, if I was a big fan, I probably would have known most of the tidbits and information. So it was good.
Well,
very, very thorough.
Yeah, I mean, you say that, but there's not a lot. I mean, I've got the DVD of the miniseries, and it does contain a commentary by director Tommy Lee Wallace on across the whole sort of 4 hours or 3.5 hours or whatever it is of the miniseries. But other than that, there aren't any real, there's no featurettes or documentaries or anything like that about this. So I think it's actually quite good and timely that they've done this. I mean, I revisited it when the new versions of it, chapter 1 and 2 came out. I went back and revisited the miniseries for comparison, because I hadn't seen it since it originally aired. And this was great. Natasha, did you see this documentary?
No.
Have you seen the film It, though? Are you familiar with the material?
The first one, I haven't seen the mini series, and I haven't seen the different ones.
Okay. What about you, Clive? What's your relationship with It?
Well, I have, like you, I have that DVD. I enjoy Tim Curry in it. I think is fantastic. I feel like the first half of the Tommy Lee Wallace one is really good. It's very strong. And then when we get into the adults, I feel it's not as good, and it sort of doesn't work anywhere near as well. If any, weirdly, I don't know whether that's partly to do with the novel itself, because I found the same with the recent films. Although, but having said that, the recent film, the recent, like, it's chapter 2 with Jessica Chastain and James McAvoy and the rest was significantly better than part 2 of the original. But I feel the thing with a lot of these, like, retrospective documentaries and these things, is these are kind of seminal films for a lot of people. These are the films where if you saw them at the right age, then they stay with you forever, because it's sort of, those images are burnt into your mind. It's that sort of, you having nightmares about clowns and red balloons for for years afterwards, if it hits you at the right time. And even, I think when I saw it, I was probably a lot older than that. I think I don't think I saw it until I was in my 20s. But I still think it's very creepy, and it's really well done.
Yeah.
That said, it's been a while since I've sat down and watched the whole thing. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. I was similar in so much that I was a bit older when I saw it, but I liken it to another Stephen King miniseries, in fact, which is Salem's Lot. And when I saw that, I was a child, and that really creeped me out, like, big time. And so I know exactly what you mean. I think for a generation that sort of grew up seeing this miniseries when they were young kids. The whole Tim Curry clown thing would the Pennywise thing would definitely freak them out and make them scared. And it's always been effective. Hence why I actually make a reference to it in one of my films, The Baby Watcher, which I know you're aware of, Clive. But there's definitely an it reference in there. So yeah, it's good. Interesting what you were saying about the parts 1 and 2. In this, I'm not spoiling anything here, but in this documentary, Tommy Lee Wallace does talk about that, and he said the thing was the first part was written by Larry Cohen, who did a really good job of adapting Stephen King's, that first part of that novel into evening 1 or part 1 of the miniseries, but they were having trouble cracking the second part, and Tommy Lee Wallace actually did the teleplay to that himself, and he said, he actually admits that his part, he was being quite humble in the documentary, but he was, sort of admitting that his part probably wasn't quite as good as the stuff that Lawrence Cohen had written for the first part. But yeah, always difficult. Those King adaptations are difficult in general. I mean, we've done a whole podcast on that, haven't we? So the quality can vary. Let's put it that way. All right, moving on then. Last Survivors. So I know I'm talking a lot. So does anyone want to kick off on this one?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I bought into the. I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything either, but I really bought into the whole premise of it. And then when it gets revealed what the situation actually is, you've already bought into it so much. It's really really blindsides you in that sense.
Yes. Yeah, again, as you said about one of the films earlier, Natasha, and the same applies here. This is a very difficult film for us to talk about in any real depth on this live stream without actually spoiling it, because you're right, it's another one of those films that starts off as one thing and goes somewhere completely different. But in terms of
believable.
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree. In terms of recognizable faces, I mean, we've got Stephen Moyer, who many people would know from True Blood. And then we've got Alicia Silverstone, who I'd not seen in years, as one of the leads in this. So, yeah.
Yeah, the performances were fantastic. I thought really drew you into it. And Stephen Moyer as well. He was in the Q&A afterwards. Lovely guy.
Yeah, and his mum watched it, right? his mum was in the crowd, yeah, which is kind of cool. I mean, it must be interesting for one of those guys, a Brit who's done very well for himself in Hollywood, and to come back and see a film with an English audience, and able to have his mum there as well. Fantastic, eh?
Yeah, such a great atmosphere.
Yeah. Andy, what about you? What are your thoughts on this?
I wasn't crazy about it, but I think maybe I was wanting more horror. I don't know. It was. I think I'd have enjoyed it more, kind of in a Sunday afternoon sort of home setting. I don't know. I don't think it was really for me.
All right,
but I agree the performances were strong.
Fair enough, Clive.
Yeah, I mean it's largely a drama, isn't it? Obviously, there are these kind of genre elements to it. The kind of the initial setup of the father and son surviving out in the middle of nowhere, and then there are potential outside threats, and then we get introduced to this third character, and then gradually we find out more about what's happening on the outside. But what really works is those central three. I think the performances are really good. I think the script is solid. I have one quibble with it, but it's one of those one of those things where, like, after the film you're like, hang on a minute, and then you start thinking about a thing. which I can't go into here because it's very spoilerific. But so just you just leave that there. So no, I would recommend this. I think it's good. I wish the score wasn't quite so pushing me in how to feel. It's very kind of, it's sort of like, it's quite a traditional score, sort of strings, and it's, I would be very curious to sort of watch this film, but with like a very stripped back score, one that was less kind of like telegraphing the moments. So that was the only thing. It felt a little bit, I felt like I was being a little bit pushed by the score, but it was obviously a choice they made, and it didn't spoil it for me. But yeah, overall, I would say this is a good film. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting point actually, because for some time now it's been quite vogue to have sort of fairly stripped back scores that don't lead you too much emotionally in films, and you're right, this was a bit more of a back to the sort of classic, slightly more sort of bombastic score, and a lot of definitely a lot of telegraphing going on in that, but but I think this works. I think this is an enjoyable film. It's a quality film, but as Andy rightly said, it's not heavy on the horror for sure.
But then, as we said before, it's not always that the festival is not filled with just pure horror, is it? It's just maybe I was more in the mood for, but I was
yeah. I mean, this is kind of a post-apocalyptic drama, so it's kind of, it still sort of fits within what Frightfest do. But you're right, it's not an out and out horror movie. Cool. All right. Well, okay. Now this one, I have to say, this for me was the film of the whole festival in terms of being effective.
Yeah, I agree, Keith, definitely.
This had me. I mean, you're saying about earlier about audience reaction and how important that is. I was literally on the edge of my seat. I had my hand up to my face like this. I was. It's a film with subtitles because it's a Scandinavian film. But it's nothing to do with the innocence in terms of the the 1961 classic. It's a completely different film to that. It just shares the title. But yeah, I was so invested, and I was so affected and disturbed by this film. So
I had exactly the same reaction as you. I was just, it's so intense, and you're just so drawn into it, and I think the sound design on this as well is fantastic because it really heightens that, the music. And I mean, there are points where you're so focused a bit, and I don't want to say, I don't want to spoil it, but it's fantastic.
Yeah, no, agreed. I mean, it's there's a lot of child actors involved in this film because it is essentially about children, and some really impressive performances. Now, Clive, I don't want to steal your thunder here. You kind of sum this film up in a line, and I thought, what a great way to describe that to someone if you're trying to explain what the film is. So, do you want to tell us your line?
Oh, Scanners, but with kids. Is that what I said? Yeah.
There you go. I mean, I think that kind of does sum it up somewhat. It's like, it's more nuanced than that, but I thought that was actually a really good way to sort of, if you were going to do an elevator pitch for it, that's kind of spot on, I think. But there was also some really fantastic photography in this as well. Great performances. fabulous photography, and just I really, again, I want to say stuff, but it's kind of spoilery if I do. So, but yeah, it's not just sort of brutality with children, but there's a bit of cruelty to animals and all sorts of things that come into this. That's quite disturbing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very creepy in the sense that it stays with you, and afterwards as well, you just think, I'm not sure about the world anymore. And I think it really gets you.
Yeah.
No, there's a nice sense of dread as well, there isn't there? Sort of things that you see just out of the corner of your eye, or that they're shown, and you think, oh, what's going to happen with that item or that person? Or it's like, and you're just constantly sitting, sort of waiting for whatever it is to happen, and it often does.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like I was there going, oh no, that they're not. Then oh god, they are. You know, all the way through it, it was that, and it was like, oh, I just, I was so stressed by the time I came out of the film.
It was very entertaining to sit next to you.
Yeah.
I certainly sort of made it less tense for me, sort of seeing you doing that all the time.
Yeah, well, it has to be effective to get me to do that sort of thing. But yeah, it was. Clive, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. This is my film of the festival as well. I would just say that it's very much an art house type of film, so kind of be aware of that. If I know that I did hear a few rumblings around me from people who weren't quite as into it as we were, just because they obviously preferred more of a mainstream style, and this definitely sort of takes a step back. I personally feel like that kind of almost added like a deadpan quality to some of the kind of like horrific moments, made it seem more real, almost documentarian. And when you when you add in those super creepy elements like the sound design that Natasha mentioned, and just the brilliant performances, it's great. I mean, it takes its time. I didn't mind that at all. I was completely enveloped in the world, and it's super disturbing.
Yeah. Sounds like we're all agreed on that one, at least. Fair enough. Okay, let's move on. Okay, Amulet. Who wants to talk about this one?
I was kind of up and down with this. I really liked it at for 10-minute stretches, and then it lost me again, and then I was back, and it was real up and down. I'm not really sure what I thought of it, to be honest, by the time it finished. I sort of half liked it. Is that fair?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's totally fair. It's like, that's the point. Everybody's got their own. I struggled a bit with this one. I'm not going to lie, but I don't want to sort of influence what anyone else says. So, did you see this one, Natasha?
No, I didn't see this one.
Okay, Clive, did you have strong feelings about this?
I did. I think it's one of those films where the end image and the end scene will stay with me for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that almost made some of the bits which for me didn't quite work, like it sort of redeemed those. It's a well acted film. I was following the kind of protagonists throughout, and was invested in what was going on. It got a bit convoluted in the middle and a bit muddy, and even at the end, I wasn't entirely sure how it all added up. And then, without spoiling anything, there is a turn which which didn't completely work for me in the plot. A character moment, but that said, it's beautifully shot. It's beautifully, the production design is great. You've got some really good actors in there, haven't you? And it's a very unusual film, very unusual story. And Romola Gary is a really kind of, got a very strong voice, and I hope we see more from her, because it really did stay with me, even though I had a few issues with it.
Because this was, I mean, it's very competently made, that's for sure. I mean, this is her directorial debut. She's better known as an actress. I know her from things like Atonement and Suffragette, and stuff like that. She's been acting for some time, but she did say, because she was a guest as well at Frightfest for this, and she said she has kind of got the directing bug now, having got to do this. And I mean, it's there's no doubt about the fact that it's a very competently made film. It's quite slick and whatever, but yeah, I did sort of, even though I say that, I did struggle a little bit with it. I'm not going to lie. I don't know why. It wasn't quite gelling together at places, but then again, this is, I mean, it's intentionally quite a depressing film anyway, right? So, a lot of it filmed on practical locations, it deals with some pretty deep issues. And you're right, the cast is very good. The performances are strong. The directing is strong. I just wasn't. There were bits of the writing that I wasn't 100% invested in, but then again, it was following a film that I was very affected by. So it kind of had a lot of work to do. I think there is something when you go and just see one movie, when you go to the cinema to watch a particular film that you're intending to go and see, it's different to when it's been as part of a festival where you're literally watching films all day. Sometimes I think what you've watched before can kind of affect and inform that sometimes. So but cool. Anything anyone wants to add about this? This is getting this has got a proper theatrical release coming up very soon, hasn't it? I believe.
Yeah, I think you did say that. I think it was mainly there's some flashback sequences. I think they are kind of thinking about it more, what didn't work for me. I know they served a purpose in the story, but every time we went there, I was like, I want to get back to the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you, Andy. It was a very unusual way of I can't really get into it, but it was the choice that was made, and I agree that those scenes didn't work quite so well for me either. So
well, this is going to be, I believe, early next year, early 2022. This is going to be in the cinemas to go and see. So if you like your dark horror mystery type stuff, this is definitely worth a watch.
And it has Imelda Staunton. There is that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. Oh God, here's where pronunciation comes in. What is it? Venezia? Is that how you
Venezia? Is it?
Venezia?
Venezia, yeah, I don't know.
Not too sure how to pronounce this, but
the Spanish one.
Yes. Well, it's a group of Spanish tourists that end up in Venice, right?
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
Is basically the premise. Now, I actually enjoyed this, but I have to say, wow, I struggled right at the beginning because they were talking so fast that I was having trouble reading the subtitles and watching what was going on at the same time. I don't know whether that's just me and my mild dyslexia, or whether anybody else found that. But I was kind of there thinking, oh my God, I really want to watch the screen, but I'm trying to keep up with all the snappy dialogue. And
yeah, I had the same problem.
you did good
at the beginning. It was very hard because it's so quick.
Yeah, it was a lot of banter between the young attractive group of people that went on this. It's basically kind of a bachelorette party, wasn't it, kind of thing, and and there was a lot of snappy dialogue. But yeah, I was struggling to read and watch everything that was happening at once. But yeah. But any thoughts?
I really enjoyed this. I thought it captured very well the essence of Venice and the kind of being lost and frantically trying to find certain places. And if anyone's ever been to Venice, that's exactly what it's like, and it's so easy to take a wrong turn. So I think it captures that very well, and it's a very colourful piece. There's a lot going on, lots of action. I really enjoyed it. I wasn't sure at the end. I thought there could have been a bit more kind of, I don't want to spoil it, but I felt that there could have been something bigger that happened at the ending, but the rest of the way through, I really bought into the whole premise of the film.
Yeah, it did get a little convoluted towards the end, I feel, but obviously shooting in Venice, beautiful location. So I mean, you had huge production value there just from the city alone. Good performances from what I could tell, obviously in a different language. But I noticed Bond girl Caterina Marino was in that, who was in Casino Royale. She was the Bond girl on a horse, as they say in that film. But she had a part in this as well. But yeah, I bought into the mystery of it, because it was a little bit of a mystery plot line as well, wasn't it? But it did have some real nastiness in it. It's quite I mean, if you want hard horror, you had a bit more in this. Do you feel that, Andy? I know you were saying earlier that
definitely
a few of the films were light on the horror, but I don't think this was it?
No. This did this was as this was my last one. It was a good send off, and it was weird. I'd recently seen a Richard E. Grant thing about the cruise ships going into Venice. So it was nice to see it play out in a horror film. So it was only recently.
That was an interesting premise for this, for sure. Yeah,
but based on a real thing. So,
well, it did feel quite realistic. I mean, that was one of the things about it. It didn't feel. I mean, of course, it was somewhat heightened, particularly towards the end, but. I kind of sort of bought into the situation of it very much so, and empathized with the characters and whatever. So I thought that worked quite nicely.
Yeah, it had a good mix of things, and the characters were, there was comedy and silliness of the sort of teenager sort of thing, but it wasn't ridiculous. It was solid enough, and then the other stuff came in soon enough. Sometimes don't you too long with messing about and comedy, which is not always funny comedy, before you get the proper stuff or what you've come to see.
Yeah. I mean, there were some funny moments in this in terms of the banter and whatever between the characters, but yeah, the actual what was actually happening was dark as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very brutal as well.
Yes.
I went with my mum to see this one, and she is into some horror, but not as much as she used to be, and she really flinched a lot of times. So.
Right. Okay. Did she enjoy it though?
I'm not sure. Yeah.
She was disturbed by it though. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it comes back to what we've been saying. It really, all of these kinds of different titles, it very much depends on what kind of thing you're into, because they're all so different.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Clive? You're quite quiet. Have you got thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, I've liked the films I've seen of Alex de la Iglesia in the past, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He had a film at Frightfest in recent years called The Bar, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Oh, that was it.
Yeah, and and even going back to sort of early stuff like Action Mutante, it's sort of his films tend to have this kind of slightly punky, pulpy energy, this sort of like reminiscent of like some of the earlier Almodovar films, and this certainly has that kind of energy, that kind of colourfulness to it. And there's slasher movie elements here. There are kind of it all takes place during Carnival, so there's all these kind of ornate masks, and there. If anything, like there are kind of multiple antagonists, and I sort of found one of them scarier than the others, without getting into it. And then there is like you say, there's a mystery element to it, and I felt that the whole conspiracy part of it got a little bit convoluted, which sort of drained the energy away from the ending a little bit for me. Which is so I won't go any more into that without because that's spoilers. But it's but yeah, I enjoyed it a lot, and it really barreled along, and likable leads, and after those initial scenes, it does slow down with the subtitles, so it's good.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I believe this one is another one they said is getting a proper theatrical release quite soon. So if you like your Spanish horror films or whatever, then check it out. Alrighty, and then the final film of the festival, Miracle Valley. Who wants to kick off with this one? Who saw it? I know Andy didn't see it. Did you see it, Natasha?
No, not this one.
Right. So it's you and me, Clive. Go for it.
So we get this setup of these two couples who are kind of going for this kind of weekend out in the country, where they've been sort of given the keys to this ranch because one of the guys is a photographer, and he's going to try and get and he's going to try and get a photograph of a very rare bird. It is the setup, and then they come into contact with the inhabitants of Miracle Valley, and we find out there's a history that there used to be a death cult around the area, and then they meet a friendly reverend, and who helps them out, but then things are not what they seem, and it takes a turn, and then it takes another turn, and then it takes another turn, but yeah, this I was with it to begin with, even though I didn't like a lot of the characters, and then it just gets increasingly ludicrous and silly. I wasn't bored, but I just after a while you're just kind of rolling your eyes and laughing at it because it's very silly.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely was a fun one to finish on. Again, I think that's something that Frightfest like to try and do. Have the last film as something that's you know, maybe not, well, often they are ultra disturbing, but at the same time, the sort of thing that the audience is going to laugh at. And there were definitely bits to laugh at here. I'm hoping intentionally. But yeah, this is another one of those films. There was quite a lot of films that sort of took place in the desert in remote locations, and this was another one of those. And I agree. I was kind of really with it for the first half, thinking, actually, this is decent. I'm liking this. This is, you know, I'm not sure where this is going, and was kind of, you know, bought into it. But I have to say that by the end of it, I was laughing, and we got that applaud moment that you talk about, Clive, when, you know, the whole audience applauded something, and it got that towards the end. So,
Yeah.
But do you think it was intentionally trying to be that broad, or do you think it was just that it wasn't done very well or acted very well in places that it came across like that?
That's a good question, because the tone was very consistent. You know,
Mhm.
it wasn't like it was uneven. It just increasingly asked you to swallow sillier and sillier things, right?
Mm.
And to the point where it's just laughable. And then there are some character turns where you're like you're laughing at it, because it's like no human would say those words in that situation, you know. But you know, sometimes it was intentionally funny, often it was unintentionally funny, but you know, it was entertaining. There was, you know, there was some fun kills. It's a pretty light film, despite some of the areas it touches on, you know.
Yeah, it's one of those light horror film. I mean, there's definitely some gore and some nastiness in it, but it's kind of got that slightly campy feel around it, and
Yeah.
but it was good. I think generally the quality of this year's Halloween Fright Fest was fairly consistent and fairly up there. There weren't any real howlers that were just god awful and hard to watch. I think, but there was also a lot of variety. I'm guessing we're all sort of agreed, because I was going to go around and ask each of you what your favorite film at the festival was, but I think everybody's kind of given it away. And interestingly, it sounds like we're all in agreement on that one. Yeah, is I mean, for me, it's definitely The Innocents, but I'm getting the impression with you guys as well that was the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's difficult to say that's one I enjoyed the most. There's that kind of little bit to it. I think it was the best film, but I'm not sure. It's not something I'm going to sort of want to sit down and watch for enjoyment too often.
Well, it wasn't a feel-good movie, was it?
No, but every so often I like a film like that. I mean, every so often I need to watch like Requiem for a Dream or Possession or something like that. It's in that kind of, it's time for that again. It's one of those.
Mm.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other things that you want to mention about any of the films we've looked at, or just what was going on in Fright Fest in general this year?
Yeah, I've got a few. Fright Fest also have some filmmakers or other special guests talking about other films that are out or upcoming that might be of interest to people who are into things at Fright Fest. And one of the guests was Paul Andrew Williams. He showed his trailer and a little intro about his new film, which is Bull, which I've seen and I thought was brilliant.
Right.
Very, very intense, and lots of kind of action and lots of blood and guts as well. So if you're into that, I would definitely check that out.
Yeah. No, I have to say the trailer for that looked awesome, and I do like his. You know, I like London to Brighton. I thought that was a great film that he made, and I really like, the name escapes me, but the name of the lead actor in that I really like.
Neil Maskell.
Neil Maskell. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. From obviously, you know, Frightfest sort of favourite kill list, right?
Yes. Yeah. No, that trailer definitely makes me want to see that film. Have we an idea of when the release date for that is?
I think it's out at the moment. It's
Right.
or soon. It was at LFF, London Film
Right.
Festival, a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think it is November, isn't it? I think it's November, but yeah. But yeah,
Okay.
check your local details and all that.
Yeah. There were a few trailers that they played across the festival this time, which again, you know, there look like there's some good stuff there. In fact, the trailers work because in the summer Frightfest event, they kept playing this trailer for a film with Megan Fox, like a sort of thriller out in the the title of it's completely
Until Death. Is it Until Death?
Till Death. That's right.
Till Death.
And it's on Amazon Prime, and I watched it simply because I'd seen the trailer at Frightfest and thought, that looks worth a watch, and it was. So yeah, it's good when they do that for sure. So
yeah, Paul Sophocles from Lionsgate also did a little intro to, I don't know, I think it's out early next year maybe. It's called The Devil's Light, and I think for me it's probably going to be really, really scary. But I think people who are really into that, it's kind of a possession, an exorcism film, and the trailer again looked really good quality, high production value in that.
Yes, no, agreed. That looked interesting as well. So yeah, well, you know, congratulations to the guys at Frightfest for putting on another you know, fun-filled weekend for us. Obviously the next event will be Frightfest Glasgow, which at the moment I'm fully intended on going to when it comes out. And as I said, if anybody watching this is interested, if they go to frightfest.co.uk, you can find all the details of that sort of stuff. So anything else? Sorry, Andy, Clive, anything you want to add as well about Frightfest?
I will just say that, you know, that they're on the socials. You know, I'm a member of the the group on Facebook, and you know, and so if you want to find out sort of details, because sometimes they have like one-off screenings in between events, and or they'll post trailers or giveaways. That's another thing to check out on the website. They often have competitions where you can win goodies. So yeah.
Yeah, there were lots of giveaways during the event as well, DVDs and T-shirts and things. So that's the merchandise is one of the. Who was wearing a T-shirt? Clive, did you have a T-shirt on? A Frightfest T-shirt.
I did. I've got one on now. Look at that.
Oh, there. Yeah.
I had my Back in the Cinema Frightfest T-shirt, which I think I've used on the thumbnail for this video. So yes, I was sporting the Frightfest attire as well. So and yeah, they were doing some good giveaways. I think they were partnering with Second Sight Films for some of the Blu-rays that they've currently and 4Ks that they've currently got. I've actually done an unboxing for The Guest, which was one of them that they were featuring here on this channel. So if you want to see an unboxing for that, check it out. And as soon as I've watched everything, I'll get a full 4K review looking at the picture, audio, and special features and whatever. So yeah, you know, check that out if you're interested. So right, guys, well, before we actually wrap this up, I do want to give everybody the opportunity to promote any work, whether it's your own work or somebody else's, or anything that you want to mention, and how people can get hold of you if they want to. So Natasha, you're our special guest. Thank you for your contributions this evening. Let's start with you. What's happening in your world, and where can people find it?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is great. So it's Natasha Marberger. I'm all over everything. So come and find me. Twitter and Marberger, I think, because of the character limit, but otherwise Natasha Marberger everywhere. And my website for my producing is natashamarberger.com. And if you want to email me, it's info@natashamarberger.com. Or if you're interested in either the London Independent Film Festival or the Los Angeles International Film Festival, they're both on all social media as well. So Twitter and Instagram, it's @LondonIFF or @Los Angeles IFF.
Right.
So you can find us there, or also we've got Facebook pages and Facebook groups for those as well. And the websites are for the London Independent Film Festival, it's www.lif.org. lif.org. And the other one is laiff.org. So you can check us out on there.
Well, I'll tell you what, Natasha, if you can send me that stuff, I'll ensure that I put it in the show notes for this as well, so that there'll be links and everything that people can find in the show notes below. So no problem. And what about I know you've produced some films and whatever. Is there anywhere where you can currently see if anybody wants to check those out?
Yeah, so if you go onto my website, then all the links, they're either there. If there is a link, if it's online, then the link will be on there straight to watch, or there'll be trailers or whatever.
All right. Well, we'll get that stuff put down in the notes as well. Just if after we finish this, you just send it to me. I'll, as I said, I'll get it added to the show notes, and people can find it there as well. So that's fantastic. Andy, what about you? Anything you want to promote for anyone or anything?
Yep. Nothing for myself. A mate of mine has a podcast called The After Movie Diner, which is always worth a listen.
Okay.
And another friend of mine does a cooking thing on YouTube called The Composing Cook. Both those are, well, if you want to eat stuff, he does some good stuff. He's been doing some student sort of meals recently, which we're going to get my daughter to learn how to do before she disappears up wherever she's going.
Right. Okay.
And then if you wanted to see odd pictures of fields near me or London, and I take pictures of that, there's my Instagram is the Lunn.
The Lunn.
The Lunn, yeah.
I like it. Okay.
Sometimes
well, again,
mince pies, things like that. Everything you could like.
Cool. Well, again, I'll if you send me this, I'll stick the links down below as well. But it's always good to vocalize these things as well. So, Clive, what about you? Where can people find your work?
People can find my most recent short films by going to Vimeo and putting my name in, and you'll find my most recent work as a director there. And I've also got an Instagram if people want to check out my photography. That's on there under my name, I believe. And obviously in this spare channel, I've been on a few other live streams talking about Marvel movies and assorted geeky things. So yeah,
it's a lot of stuff out there, isn't there? So
there's a little bit.
There's a little bit out there, yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, if you're here, you found this channel. So thank you. As I said, please check out some of the work there. We're also available as a podcast, which is Let's See What's Out There, or abbreviated to LSWOT. So Le SWAT Cast. That's available on all the good podcasting apps, catchers, etc. So go and check that out as well. If you've got any feedback or comments on any of this, please put it in the comment section down below, and I try and answer as many of those as I can. If you've got anything in particular that you want us to cover and talk about, I'm always looking for topics. This is a massive subject. Film and TV is huge. If you want to see some of my work in terms of short films that I've made, that I've written, produced, and directed, please go to my other YouTube channel, which is British Isles. That's EYLES, as in my last name. And you can find some short films that I've made there. They are sort of in the horror thriller genre, so ideal if you're watching this sort of thing and you like your Frightfesty type stuff. And it would be wrong of me not to plug as well the latest thing that I'm actually working. Oh, wrong one. Sorry, stop that screen. Sharing everything. Didn't want to do that. Again, live. There we go. That's what I was trying to do. My latest film that I'm working on, which was co-written by Mike Tack, again, friend of the channel and friend of Frightfest, who sadly couldn't make it this year for the Halloween one. But yeah, Car Cam. It was being filmed before the pandemic and got obviously put on hold for that. But I'm trying to resume that. Not to be confused with Dash Cam, which has been at the London Film Festival recently. Very, very different type of film, both in terms of subject matter and aesthetic and narrative and all of that sort of thing. So trying to get that finished, hopefully maybe at Frightfest in the future. Who knows? We'll have to see. We'll have to see if it turns out good enough. Fingers crossed and all that. But that just leads me to say thank you so much to all of our guests today. I really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you found it on YouTube, and as I said, please consider subscribing and all of that good stuff. But for now, thanks everyone, and we will, all of you guys are welcome back anytime. If you want to come on and talk about anything else, please join us again. But for now, thank you very much, and I'll see you next time on Let's See What's Out There. Bye for now.
Bye.